Hello and welcome to Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.cadocchriffs.com. My name is Jason JROCK Houston, and I'm really happy to be speaking with lead singer, bassist Vince von Roth. And how you doing today, Vince?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a bit tired because it's 9:30 in the evening now, and I'm working with kids, so.
Oh wow!
It's exhausting.
And so I got to ask you, that name. I'm assuming you must be a bit of a Van Halen fan.
Yeah, it's like jealous of the holy trinity of Vince Neil, David Lee Roth, and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with those influences, you know. And what I love is people tell you that, you know, David Lee Roth's not the greatest, maybe world's greatest singer, but I'll tell you what, for what he did on those Van Halen records, I mean, he worked with what he had, and more than anything, I used to love Dave's kind of nonsensical lyrics. You know, they were so Dave, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I love Diamond Dave, man. He's awesome. To me, he's Van Halen. That's the core of Van Halen, the first 6 records. Of course, there are big hits and great songs
with Sammy
Hagar,
of course,
but,
yeah.
But I'm a Dave guy, always will be.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, as they say, I think, you know, that song they did with Sammy kind of says it all. Best of both worlds. I mean, I really do kind of love it all, but like you, for me, it started with Dave, so you can't go wrong with any of it.
Yeah, that's what I think too, because, you know, Eddie played different guitar when he was with Dave, because he had to fill more in, you know, because like I said, Dave was a bit more not as good or not as good with him.
Different, just different, yeah.
You know what, Sammy could sing better, so Eddie was able to do less.
Yeah.
I love both, but I love Dave. That's my period, you know.
Yeah,
especially the first record.
Is that where you kind of, as far as Van Halen came on your radar, was the very first album?
It came on my radar because I'm 40 now. I wasn't there when it hit, you know.
Okay.
I was -4.
Yeah.
But Jump, of course, was one of the first ones I heard. But what really got me was the first one that stuck with me, and then the other 5 with Dave.
Of course.
The Van Halen records I always go back to.
And you bring up Eddie, which is an interesting thing to talk about, because I mean, I don't think anyone's going to argue one of the greatest all-time guitar players in the world, and yet when you stop and you realize the guy could not read a lick of music, but look what he did with the guitar. You mentioned Jump, first #1 hit song the band had, and yet it was a keyboard-oriented tune, so you can never go wrong with Van Halen, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And so let's talk about you know, your band Balls Gone Wild. I mean, I know that's one of the hardest things is to come up with a name. So tell the story of how you guys came up with that name, because I'm sure there's an interesting story behind that.
It's a stupid story, I guess. What is a stupid story? I had a list of names. I started not only when we started the band. I played guitar and sang. We were a 4-piece because I'm a bass player. Yeah. Of course. But I always wanted to do something where I sing and play guitar, because that's what I've been doing a lot of years before I founded Balls Gone Wild. And then I had a list of names, like drunken.
Okay. Yeah.
Stupid names, you know. And had the other choice I would love to have was Rattlehead, because I'm a huge Megadeth fan as well.
Oh wow.
But I think there is an American band called Rattlehead, so that one got out, and Balls Gone Wild was just so stupid that it stuck with me.
You know, I love it for the fact that you know, you tell that story, and it may be to you so simple, but I think that's what makes it work. You know, I mean, probably not another band out there like it. And it's a cool sounding name. I mean, and I got to ask, you know, that reminds me of another one of my all-time favorite, you know, heavy metal frontman, Blackie Lawless. You know, he used to switch back and forth between bass and guitar. So I got to ask you, as far as you playing the bass or guitar, do you have a preference?
It's the bass. I started out as a bass player, and I wanted to play the guitar because it was like I had to do it for myself. The first record that's not And it's the first record I played everything on it, but the drums and the solos that Tom did. I played all the rhythms, all the double leads, all my leads, all the bass, because I had to do it for my ego, you know.
Yeah, let me ask you a little bit about that. So, did this initially kind of start out as a recording project, this Balls Gone Wild, and you know, playing all the instruments on the first album, and you wanted to kind of see what you could do?
No, not really. I started, I had all that. That was a time with a good friend of mine. We were having a lot of parties, and we were always playing guitar, like playing like Megadeth, Machine Head stuff, and then I played some Van Halen too, and all the goodies. And he always was like learning new songs, like new cover tunes. And while he was doing that, I was writing music, and that turned out to be the first record. But I met with Tom, my guitar player, in a rehearsal space, because we both played in a band called Black Sheriff before, and we quit together, and then we played just like the two of us, two guitars, full stacks Marshall, and just played the songs, you know, started writing them, just two guitars, and making them sound okay. And then we had the first drummer and the bass player, and then I went in the studio literally and recorded like 12 songs in 5 days. Yeah, that's the story of the first one. And then why we're a 3-piece now is because our bass player Jan, he's playing with Beast of Blanco. It's the side project of Chuck Garrick.
Chuck Garrick from Alice Cooper's band.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he plays there too, and he has a U.S. tour or a European tour with Chucky, and I said, okay, we have some gigs. I'll play the bass. We play as a 3-piece, and I took up the bass again and put it on my neck, and I was like feeling home. I could sing better. Because I don't have to focus that much on the instrument when I play bass, because it's where I come from. You know? And it was way easier for me to sing. You know, I could sing better. I could concentrate more on the singing and not on the playing. And then we had it like a year. We had like some gigs we played as a 3-piece, some as a 4-piece, and the 3-piece shows, they were just like way better. And it was hard because Jan is my best friend, one of my best friends, and to tell him, so man, I want to play bass. It was really, really hard. And like it's always, you know, if you want to meet up and talk face to face, you don't get it. You don't have the time because he's on tour, I was on tour, stuff like that. And then I had to do it on the phone, and I was like so pissed at myself. And he was the only thing he said, I know, man, you're way better, man. Just do it. It's for you, man.
Well, what a trooper.
We're still best friends, you know.
Yeah, what a trooper.
That's cool.
I mean, you know, and I just got to ask you real quick about the recording of that first album. You know, I love to talk to guys like you, Vince, because, you know, while you're maybe more comfortable being the frontman, the singer, and the bass player, because that's where you come from, the fact that on that first album you were recording the drums, you kind of did it all. I think, you know, as a producer, as a musician, that must give you a better understanding of what the other guys in the band do, that to have been able to do that. You know, okay, so maybe you're not a world-class drummer, but...
I didn't play the drums. I didn't play the drums. The drums were played by producer Martin, and the first drummer of the band.
Okay.
And he played the drums, and I just played the rest. So.
Okay. Wow.
But it was the difference between the first and the last 2 records is that the first one was we laid down a scrap guitar. He played the drums, and then we built from that, you know. And now the last 2 records, it was actually, we played it as a 3-piece live. The basic tracks, and then we added a second guitar and the solos and the vocals. That's it. But basically, the basic tracks are all played live as a 3-piece.
And so, what's that like being a 3-piece? Because I mean, even great classic rock bands here in the United States from back in the day. I mean, 2 come to my mind are like Grand Funk, you know, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. I mean, you always hear about people talking about, you know, for when you're a 3-piece band, it's I don't know, something so great about that. What's your experience with that?
Funny that you mentioned Grand Funk Railroad, the red one, the Grand Funk Railroad record.
Mark Warner.
That's holy grail of bass sound, you know.
Wow.
That's why my bass sounds the way it sounds. I don't that and Lemmy, you know.
Oh, of course.
These two things. The best thing to me in the three piece is that everybody has a freedom, you know. Of course, you have to be better as a three piece, I think, because when this guitar solo starts, you, as a bass player, you have to be able to fill the hole of the missing rhythm guitar. But that's something what you play, and to me, it's about the sound. You know, I always have a little bit distortion. I play an old Ampeg that is cranked up, and I don't have any pedals. I just put my old precision in the old Ampeg, and that's it. You know, that's what makes the sound, and the fingers, of course. Yeah.
That's why.
Three piece it's the best power you can get if you have a good three piece.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing that gives you a bigger hole than that.
And so then you definitely play with your fingers, not with a pick.
I play with a pick.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Not that I could play it with my fingers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I like the attack and the grind.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. And you know, Lemmy, a legendary bass player, frontman in his own right. May he rest in peace. But you know, he's a perfect example of like what a frontman, what a bass player should be. And I think, could you imagine when Lemmy died, if the surviving members of the band even thought about trying to replace him? Could you imagine?
No, because Lemmy is Motorhead.
Of course, he was Motorhead.
Lemmy was Motorhead. You couldn't replace Lemmy. It's like replacing James Hetfield or David Mustaine or David Hale. You can't do that. You know, that's not possible.
That's my point. And you know, I want to talk to you now about, I guess, your current single for the song. You got a great video for the song "School on Fire." I was curious. Obviously, it's about like you know, school shootings and violence. Is that as rampant in Europe as it is, or Germany, especially where you're from, as it is here in the United States?
It's not as present as here as it is in your place, of course, in your country. But it's something you always
take notice
about,
of,
especially if you work with kids or you have kids, and they're getting crazy over here in Europe.
They're getting crazier every.
So, you know, it's everywhere. They're getting crazy, you know. And it was actually Tom came with the riff and had just the hook. I just said I want to name this song "School on Fire," and he was maybe thinking more about fuck school. Let's set the school on fire because I don't want to be in school.
Yeah.
But when I wrote the lyrics, I had another perspective. You know, just
you know,
to make it about because I was trying to not to make it about party.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great.
More serious, you know.
You make a great point there. I mean, Vince, because I mean, especially when you write a song or anybody writes a song, they may have a different perspective of what the song's about. And I imagine you've experienced this yourself, writing songs, that you write a song and you know exactly what you wrote about, but maybe a fan listens to the record, they check out, you know, the music video for the song, and because of their own life experience, they get something else out of a song. We tell you know, hey, that song, School Fire, really means something to me, or this is what it means to me, and you're like, wow, that's not what the song is about, but if you know, that's what you got out of it, great.
Yeah, that's the point, you know. That's music touches everybody differently, you know.
Yeah.
And it's always, and it depends on the situation you get hit by it, you know.
Yeah.
You always have this. I have a lot of songs. You hear the song and you get a flashback to the moment you heard it the first time, or to the moment that is connected to this song because it was a special moment with, I don't know, with a good party, with a special moment with family, with a girl,
whatever the case.
Whatever.
Yeah. And you know, I think you kind of already answered this, but you know, a lot of times you hear about American bands talk about how they were influenced by you know European bands, you know, like Cream or Zeppelin or Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, whatever the case may be. Being from Europe, were you more of a fan of the American bands, or did you kind of like it all? Like, did you like the European bands and the American bands?
Different phases. You know, 70s, 60s, it's definitely more British.
Yeah.
But when you get to the 80s, you know, it's I love Zeppelin. I love the Beatles. Beatles are the best band.
Of course.
Whoever made it, you know.
I don't think anybody.
Zeppelin, of course, the Who, the old English bands, and then in the 80s when thrash metal started, it's like Megadeth, Metallica.
Oh yeah.
Van Halen, you know, and metal thing.
Okay.
And I like the classics too, you know. But
yeah.
What did it for me is Metallica, Megadeth. That's my top two when it's about heavy metal. You know, it's James Hetfield and Dave Mustaine.
Oh wow.
And Cliff Burton, of course.
Of course.
As a bass player.
I mean, it's amazing. Cliff Burton.
Old bands, yeah.
Cliff Burton, the impact that guy, you know, made with just 3 albums, and you know, if you're a Megadeth fan, September 2nd, that's the date for the new album. You gonna be checking that out?
Yeah, of course, I have to. I listen to the new songs.
Yeah, great.
They're great. I like the riffs, you know, and Dave always has some good stuff on his records. You know, it's not all there's like records like Super Collider they're a bit sucky, you know, but at least he has always one great song. And I'm not that kind of guy that says with Megadeth it's only the old stuff. But of course, the old stuff is the real good shit, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's.
But even with the newer ones, there are great songs. You know, there are always great songs. He always has some great riffs in his pocket, and he's still so pissed off. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
he's still the pissed little boy that got kicked out of Metallica. You know.
But you know what I love about his story is. You know, if he'd never gotten fired by Metallica, all he might have been was a great lead guitar player, and might have not ever found out what a great singer he was. I mean, from what I understand, when he's putting Megadeth together, he originally wanted to have somebody else sing the songs, but then when they started auditioning singers, I think it was his manager or producer at the time who suggested, why don't you just sing the songs, Dave? You know, you wrote them anyways, and he kind of got the feeling that only I can sing my songs the way I wrote them, you know. Otherwise, you're gonna have these other people come in and sing my songs, and it's gonna be their interpretation of my.
Yeah, and with Dave Mustaine, it's, you know, he's not really not a good singer, you know. But when he sings, you feel that he means it.
Oh yeah.
That's so much more important than hitting the note or singing a nice line or what. You know, when I get goosebumps just thinking about it right now. When I think about in my darkest hour, you know, when he sings and he's so pissed, or it's just amazing. It's, for me, one of the most touching things when it gets to expression in the voice, because he means what he sings. You know, he feels what he sings.
And like you said, he's a pissed off kind of guy, and when you a lot of in his songs, you can feel how angry or pissed he was when he maybe wrote the song, and just very emotive guy. And it's very much like we were saying with Lemmy. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. It doesn't even matter that he's the only original member of the band. I couldn't picture Megadeth without Dave Mustaine. He is Megadeth. So in a lot of ways, you know.
He's Megadeth.
Yeah, he is. And so I was curious about the new song, how people have been reacting to it.
They like it. They like it, and some people, realize what it's about, or tell us that it's great to touch a subject like that, you know. And it was funny. Also, Mass City. It's about obviously the first single, Mass City. It's about the Corona shit, you know.
Oh yeah.
So you don't see anymore. And these are two songs that. Of course, Mass City was written in the beginning of Corona.
Okay.
But Spoon on Fire was not. I wrote it because it was on my mind, but it was not inspired by this and that happening. But when we finished it, there was the shooting in Texas.
Yeah, of course.
And it just got more intense.
Oh know, wow! So that's how recent.
Damn, that's just like. Sadly, it's fitting the time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so that's how recent that song is, as far as you know, School on Fire. I mean, wow, that's specifically about you know, the Texas shooting, and I imagine you know, being in Germany, when you hear a story like this on the news, like you said, it doesn't happen as often in where you're from, but it's still a heart-wrenching story, and you're like, wow, what's going on in the world?
Yeah, it's great, crazy, you know. It's you know, the gun laws and stuff like that. Of course, when you're in Europe, you always can tell, man, how stupid it is that the Americans allow it, you know, and all the guns, everybody can have a gun and blah blah blah. But
Well, you know, what really gets me.
The guys who have the guns, build the guns, have the money to pay the right politicians and stuff like that. It's everywhere. It's the same, you know. And maybe in America it's a bit more crazy than here, but over here there are other aspects in life that are more crazy than over in America.
I think it's pretty much everywhere you go. I mean, sadly, I mean, as an American, I can tell you, I mean, I hate having a president of the United States like get up on TV and you know, trash the country or tell everyone the United States is a racist country and stuff like that. You know, and then they have like an attempt on a Supreme Court judge, and they're just like F the Supreme Court because, you know, they didn't get their way, and it's really sad when, you know, they're shooting and stuff, and over what? Politics? Are you serious? You're gonna kill somebody? You're gonna go to jail over politics? I mean, that's
politics, just, you know, in the name of religion or what the fuck?
Whatever, whatever.
Like same thing with female rights and abortion and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Man, it's like we're getting back in the medieval times.
Again, you know, you can have your views, but you're gonna kill somebody over a political view? Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, that's why it's great talking to you, David. That's why we need a great band like Balls Gone Wild, because, you know, not only are these songs great because they're based on actual events like this, you know, sadly, you know, there's a need for it, but I've always believed great music kind of is a way to not only get people thinking, but to bring people together.
Yeah, that's the point, you know. It's about, you know, there are a lot of people like myself. I was always like the voice was more like a melody. I never really looked at the lyrics and stuff, you know. That's why sometimes it's hard for me to write lyrics, and because I'm not that poetic, you know.
That's funny to hear you say that.
Yeah.
That's funny to hear you say that, because, and maybe having, I gotta be honest, I knew nothing about your band there until your publicist sent me a press release on the band, and I checked out some of the videos, and I was pretty impressed. I thought, oh, this is a great kind of up and coming band. How the hell have I not heard of these guys before? But I've heard of you now, and so we're talking about it, and it sounds like, if anything, you've stepped your game up a little. Maybe the songs are a little better for that very reason, because anytime you do anything new, you want to see some progression, and from talking to you, you kind of got a little more serious about the lyrics, you know, working on it a little more, and that's some of my favorite music. I can tell you, I as much as I love metal and hard rock, I listen to also stuff like Tom Petty, the Eagles. You know why? Just those are great songwriters.
I love Tom Petty, man. I love Tom Petty.
Great songwriters. I mean, that music's been played on the radio like 30, 40 years, and it's because they're just great songs. And a lot of times I listen to stuff like that, and I'm trying to figure out, what was the song written about? What's the story here he's trying to tell? And as a music fan, I really dig that, you know, as opposed to just getting an album, every song is about, you know, fucking some girl in the back seat of a car, and, you know, as great as that is too, but you know, you get a little deep with your lyrics. You make people think.
Yeah, that's what, you know, it's both, of course. Of course, I have like the title track of the new album, Stay Wild. That's about not growing up and be fucking retard and get wasted, you know.
But hey, there's a place for that, you know.
That's a place for that, and there's another one called Hangman. It's about depression, you know. That's a really serious one. That's actually the at least the lyrics and the song too, which I like the most of the new record. This one, Hangman and School on Fire, are the two ones that I'm the most proud of, you know, because of the content of the lyric and the music both together, how it worked out, and managed to be a good song, you know. And then there is a song, because I watched too much Netflix and wrote a song about Pablo Escobar, you know, because I was watching Narcos, and you get the inspiration from everywhere, you know.
Yeah, especially being a guy from Europe, I mean, you get inspiration from all kinds of different things, you know. What is there much of a music scene there in Germany where you're from these days?
It's hard because, you know, Corona really took a big toll on a lot of
bands,
guys in the business. Like a lot of bands, a lot of venues, especially a lot of and stuff. They're just when the big bands now go on tour, like Lindemann, the singer from Rammstein, he canceled the show in Wacken because he couldn't find enough hands for his show.
Oh wow!
Because they were already on tour or not available anymore. You know? And it's crazy. We're fortunate enough as a band that we don't live off it. You know, we don't have to live off it. And of course, on one side, it would be great to be a rock star and live off it, or to make a living of it. But we have regular jobs, and it's more than a hobby, it's a passion, you know. But we don't have.
You don't have to do it. Yeah.
Make the money, you know. As long as we can pay for our records and pay for the recordings, and don't put money on top when we have to gig and pay our merch and stuff. It's all good with us, you know. And
that's great.
Maybe have a nice drink here and there, and we don't do it for the money. We do it because we love it. You know?
That's even better. And I'd imagine both with all the lockdowns and stuff. Maybe that's another reason these new songs are so good, because maybe you had a little more time to work on them than you would have had otherwise.
Oh, actually, yeah. We had the songs. We like I said, we changed drummers.
Uh-huh.
And we had, before we recorded that record, we had like, I think, 8 rehearsals for the whole record.
Oh wow.
And then we played 2 shows, I guess, and maybe it was 10 rehearsals, but it was not much. But the drummer, the new one, he also plays with the guitar player in another band, and I played with him as well, and so it was like a check and go, you know. He hears the riff from me or from Tom, and he knows where the song is going. And,
cool.
That made it easy for us to make a good record, you know. Personally, I think if we had like 5 more gigs with the songs, the record would have been even better, because we had played them live before, you know. We just played like 3-4 songs live, and the rest of it was like okay, we're ready like on the last rehearsal, and the rest was made in the studio. We played like 3 times, and it was like okay, that should work, and tape it.
So with the new drummer, then there was no real audition process. You knew he could do a job, and he kind of got it. But with that being said, with the new drummer coming in, like when playing the older tunes, do you kind of want him to play it the way the original drummer did, or do you allow him to kind of put his spin on it?
We're fine with him doing his thing, because
he got the gig. Yeah, he knows what to do.
He listens to the CDs, to the vinyls, whatever, and but he does his twist on it, and so do we. You know, when we play songs from the really first record, because we play them not that often. There were just 2 or 3 that stuck with us from that first record, and when we play them, they always sound different, you know, because we just kind of like jam them a bit, you know. Of course, the structure is set, but it's always a bit different, especially vocal-wise, because it's like 10 years since I've recorded the first record, you know.
Wow.
And we're together 10 years this year. Yeah, it was my present to my 30th birthday. Was the first Balls Go On show. I said when I get 30, I want to stand on the stage and want to sing and play guitar.
Wow. Well, you mentioned being a Vince Neil fan, so I got to ask. There's talk that this stadium tour that's touring the United States right now with Motley Crue and Def Leppard and Poison and Joan Jett, or at least with Def Leppard, Motley Crue, I think they're going to take it to Europe. Do you plan to see the tour if it comes to Europe?
Actually, I'm not that big a
Vince fan.
Big a Motley Crue fan.
Okay.
I like Vince. I like Vince because he's so shitty, you know. I like the first. I really love the first Motley Crue record because that's, to me at least, that's the way I see it. The way I read The Dirt 5 times because it's so funny, you know. And I like the first Motley Crue record because I think that's the essence. It's not perfect.
No.
It's really not perfect, but it has that energy and that drive. And
that's when they were really kind of raw. They were really hungry. And, I mean, you listen to something like...
That's what I like. The second one is still cool, but you know, the Dr. Feelgood record, that's to me, it's a an awesome record.
Yeah.
Don't want to say that's shit, but it's not for me. It's not Motley Crue.
It's a pop album, and
perfect.
It's a pop album.
It's not. It's too perfect. Yeah. It's too good to be Motley. I saw them like 3 times, and they were shit every time.
Yeah, I mean, I like everything they've done, but I'm with you. Like especially the first album is really raw. It's kind of if you listen to Livewire, you could hear kind of how hungry they were back then. I mean, and the thing is, if you listen to Too Fast for Love, you know, the album as a whole, there's even elements of punk in that. And then I heard Nicky had a thing where like, okay, well that's what you think Motley Crue is. Okay, on Shout the Devil, they went totally the other way and almost became a full-on metal band, and they were constantly changing the sound. But that's kind of what they were shooting for. But Motley Crue's a good band too to kind of talk about, because how you're talking about, you like to do different types of songs. Well, Motley Crue, okay, they could have a song like Shout at the Devil, which is kind of a real metal song, an anthem, and then they have a beautiful ballad like Home Sweet Home. So, you know, there's room for everything.
Perfect example. That's what it's all about, man. Do what you want to fucking do.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not. That's what I like about Boston White. I think that's not just. It's always. It's often you have like that niche of music, and like here in Europe, it's like action rock from the Swedes, you know, and everything has to sound like that, and every song is nearly the same, or you have that Australian AC/DC stuff, and it's nearly all the same.
Yeah.
But you can do all of it, you know. Why you just have to play one song, you know?
AC/DC is the only band that I think can get away with that. I mean, I will say.
And I love AC/DC, man.
Yeah.
Scott era AC/DC. Fuck hell.
I gotta ask, have you had a chance to check out their latest album? It's been out a couple of years now, but what's interesting is I think it's the best album they put out since maybe even Back in Black, if you can believe that. And it's funny because Malcolm Young has passed away a number of years ago, and he's no longer in the band. Doesn't play a lick on the album, from what I understand, though. He wrote a lot of these riffs before he got sick, and I tell you, he doesn't play a lick on the album, but his influence is all over these songs.
Yeah, it's the same. I think, of course, you can't judge somebody to take on and move on with the.
Oh, of course not.
To carry on that legacy that they have. You know, it's with the Stones. Who am I to tell the Rolling Stones
to give it a? You know? Yeah, I hear you.
That's not my cup of tea, and it's not anybody's cup of tea. Keith Richards wants to go around the globe for another 10 years.
More power to him, yeah.
Even if he at some point just stands there and does nothing, man.
I mean, I've heard.
It's fucking choice, man. He did so many good things with Mick Jagger and Ronnie Wood and Johnny Watts.
I've heard.
Tell anybody to stop.
Yeah, I've heard both Keith and Mick say even recently that you know, they joke that they're going to die on stage, and they very well may. And what's funny is they've gone off and tried to release different solo albums, but you know what? They always come back together because together they're just a little better than they are apart.
Yeah, that's it. It's the magic between these guys. Look at Lennon and McCartney, man. That was just what a blast. These two, and then they had George Harrison and Ringo Starr.
Oh yeah, and it's funny.
That perfect band, you know.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the Beatles, because I can't think of a single person I've ever talked to that, you know, didn't like something about the Beatles. And I think what made them such a great band over maybe any other band is they were truly great songwriters. And I mean, a great example of that is a couple of years ago they came out with the greatest hits collection. It's called the Number Ones, and what it is, it's 27 number one hits. I mean, it's hard for any band to have a single number one, let alone 27. I think that kind of says it all there.
I think they were the only one like to have the first at the same point, the first 5 or 7 settings in the Billboard charts. Like 1 till 5 or 1 till 7 was all Beatles.
Yeah. and you know, Vince, I think what's funny about talking a little bit about Motley Crue today in the interview is people listening to this, when they hear the song Helter Skelter, they probably think, it is a Motley Crue song, but I'll tell you, it was actually written and originally recorded by the Beatles, and people laugh because that's probably as metal as the Beatles ever got. But you know, if it was not for them, there would not be Helter Skelter out there.
Yeah, but that's cool, you know. That's a tip of the hat from Nicky, you know.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And yeah, that's great, man. I when I play for the kids, I work in the kindergarten, you know.
Oh wow.
And when I play for the kids, I always play Beatles, and they love it, you know. And
that's easy to sing along with, yeah.
My little one was born. He's 4.5 now.
Wow.
He always has to listen to the Beatles and to Mozart.
Yeah.
Classical and even older classical.
Wow.
And he likes it. And now he always puts on Daddy's vinyl and goes crazy with his friends.
Yeah, I really enjoyed chatting with you, Vince, and getting to know you. Before we wrap it up, though, I just a few more questions. Now, I gotta say, you seem to speak very good English. So my question was, how old were you when you first started to learn how to speak English, and was it very difficult for you?
It was in school when I was like 5th grade.
Wow.
5th grade, then we started, and I really early started to listen to music and sing along, and with my with my not that good English, like and the words like I understood them and not read them, you know.
Yeah.
And then I started watching TV.
Oh, wow.
Movies or sitcoms. I started watching in English, in original language.
Wow.
Pretty early, when I was like 15, 16. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And I have a lot of friends from America, from bands from Austin, Texas, and from New Jersey and stuff like that. And from Canada, some good friends. And
great.
when you see them on tours, you have that. Yeah, you speak English,
and so my next question was
because I love English. I love that language.
Yeah, that's cool. I was just curious because like you know, it's interesting. Like one of my all-time favorite German bands, of course, the Scorpions, and I was reading that, you know, when they were first kind of really getting big in the 80s, you know, here in the United States, their drummer at the time, he was the one that wrote Herman Rarebell. He wrote a lot of lyrics. So my question was, when you first started writing songs, you know, what was that process like? Did you kind of have to think about how to write it in English versus German, or did you already know at that point?
Oh, I knew that I would write in English because it's hard to, when you write in your mother tongue, for me in German, it's way harder for me to write good German lyric.
Okay.
I'm always trying because I like to sing German when I play acoustic guitar, you know.
Okay.
With rock, in the rock segment German, I don't know if I would like it, but
to learn,
I always try to when I play some acoustic stuff for myself, and it's way harder for me to
do that. Yeah.
Write a lyric that I'm confident with, you know. When in English you have more phrases, you have more metaphors, maybe, you know, some more typical lines you can use, you know. And when I sing about love in English, it's not that corky to me.
Yeah.
And when I do it in German, but that's just me, you know. Maybe because it's just the inability to be.
Well, that's your
German poet. I don't know, you know. It's just I'm too picky. I'm too.
That's your experience.
With the German lyric.
Yeah, that's your experience. That's why I asked. I was just kind of curious. And and then like being from Germany, I mean, were the Scorpions at all kind of on your radar? Were you ever a fan of what they did?
Sorry, no.
The Scorpions. Have you ever heard of the Scorpions? You know, Rock You Like a Hurricane. I was just wondering.
Yeah, Rock You Like a Hurricane. Of course, I actually played one time with the Scorpions with another band.
Oh wow.
And I like the Scorpions from the music, the old stuff.
Yeah.
But I hate Klaus Meyer, man. I hate his voice.
Oh wow.
It's always like, how can such good music be raped with that voice? You know? But, but that's just my personal
opinion.
That's I'm really curious about when I'm really picky when I like music, and there's really often somebody tells me, listen to that, if you like this, you love that.
Yeah, well, everybody's got their own taste.
It was like, no, it's totally different, you know, because I'm really picky. I don't have like other guys that know everything, you know. Well, I have my go-to stuff that
Everybody does.
love and I adore, and I stick with that often, you know.
I think as long as you're willing to give something a listen and then give it an honest opinion, that's all anybody can, you know, ask for. And who was the bass player that kind of really was your hero growing up? You know, as far as influenced you to pick up the bass.
To pick up the bass, I was more like influenced by guitar players, but because I always wanted to be a guitar player. But my best friend at the time, when we first started the band, the first band was called Thunderfuck. And he wanted to play the bass, and I wanted to play the guitar. But my uncle was a bass player, and he started playing guitar when he was 5, like classical guitar, so we switched. And but of course, Jason Newsted, Metallica, Cliff Burton, Metallica,
can't go wrong.
Guns N' Roses, Paul McCartney, Steve Harris, and later on stuff like James Jamerson, the Motown stuff and like that. And but most of the stuff that I learned from watching guitar players. Like I adore Slash. I adore James Hetfield, Rory Gallagher, and stuff like that. Van Halen,
Yeah, you know what's interesting? You bring up James Hetfield. So many people have told me, you know, everybody says what a great player, you know, lead player Kirk Hammett is, of course, but they're like, let me tell you, as a rhythm player, James, he just kills it.
Yeah, that's Kirk. I like Kirk, the old stuff, you know, it's good. He was never the best, but he was always a good guy, you know. But Hetfield is amazing. Hetfield is the right hand in the business.
And you know what's funny is the two bass players, you know, Cliff and Jason from Metallica. I mean, great bass players. But I tell you, what really, when I think of Jason Newsted, I mean, pretty much when you hear his stories, that pretty much the reason he's not performing these days is because when he was in Metallica, he was always doing the headbang, and he was always like moving his body around and really into it. I mean, he was a real metal warrior, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, he was 150%. He broke his fucking neck for the band, and that's what I loved about him. You know, this energy ball. You know, it was like lightning out of every tour. You know, it was crazy. It was my first concert back in '96, I guess. I was 14. I was seeing them on the Load tour in Germany here, and of course everybody Load, fuck Load.
I mean, I
like Load.
I heard him recently in an interview. I heard him recently talking about all that in an interview, and he was saying, you know, people always ask him, oh, how come on stage you always wear Metallica t-shirts? And he's like, because that was my band, man. I was proud to be in that band. I'm like, wow, you know, just energy there.
Yeah. He was a fan first, man.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, can people get physical copies of your latest album, or is it just available digitally right now?
No, you can get a CD, you can get vinyls. Okay, vinyl you'll have to order here, I guess. I don't know if we got it over there, but you should be able to get CDs physical in the US, and I'm not really sure about vinyl, you know, but you can get from Europe, but then it's a bit more expensive because of the shipping.
Of course. And Vince, you want to tell people where they can find you online?
Yeah, we can find us on Facebook, Balls Gone Wild Band on Facebook, or at Balls Gone Wild Band on Instagram. Then you can contact us there.
And final question, I got to ask you. Final question for today. Have you guys toured much outside of Europe? Have you ever been over here to the U.S.? And what are your current tour plans to tour behind the new album?
A tour in the U.S., that would be awesome, but that's nothing
in the immediate future.
We did yet, and now we just play weekends. You know, the record just dropped. We played last weekend, and now we play the next 4, 5, 6 weekends. And we have a little break because my wife is going to the U.S. to visit some friends. And then after that, we're picking it up again in end of October and playing the weekends, and maybe if there will be some small tour as a support or something like that will be possible, but like a really touring band, like I said, we got family, we got jobs.
Of course.
It would be awesome, but we have to pay our rent, and we can't.
Well, you do what you
like. We can't do it anymore like when we were 20 and say, okay, I'm going now because I just need a bus
You do what you can, and that's what matters. And Vince, I really enjoyed getting.
We do what we can, and we do what we want to do.
Yeah.
We don't play any show. We don't play because we can play. We play what we want to play.
Yeah,
and,
that's the way to do it. And Vince, I really
working out good, and we're having fun.
I really enjoyed talking to you, getting to know you today. Let's keep in touch and maybe do it again down the line. The interview I did going to be going up in the next.
Really nice chat.
Going to be talking to you. I mean, we're going to be posting an interview probably within the next 2 weeks. I'll let you know once I have a date for that. And I know it's getting late where you are. You're on the opposite side of the world. I'm in. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon in Los Angeles where I am. I know it's getting late where you are.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.